of Michigan. She's a member of both the Homeland Security and Armed Services Committee. Senator, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
What is your sense of what's happening right now?
Well, look, I mean, I think obviously this is incredibly complicated and delicate negotiations, and it's hard. And kind of where this on again, off again, will they, won't they thing goes on, in, as you said, in the Strait of Hormuz with ships, whether we're going to, shoot at ships or board ships, but it also is happening on high-level negotiations. And this kind of stuff does happen, but I think that the fact that it's kind of all playing out in public is what's different, right? The fact that the president, like you said, can say one thing in the morning and a different thing in the afternoon, it just makes it, a bit chaotic for anyone to follow, but certainly sends a kind of strange set of messages to both our allies and our adversaries that they don't know, are they having a conversation? Are they going to be bombed? So it's a complicated thing to be doing it kind of over Twitter.
A new poll from Pew asked the question if people have confidence that Trump can make good decisions on U.S. policy toward Iran. 64% of all Americans have no confidence that he can do that. What are your conversations like with your constituents in the state of Michigan?
It's interesting. I think the biggest thing I hear is just kind of like, hey, I hear we're spending all this money over there. I'm worried about, my son or my nephew who's over there. And I just worry, like, what we should be doing is focusing at home. And I certainly think when it comes to the spending of the money, right, the president has signaled somewhere between $90 and $200 billion he's going to need for this operation, potentially more. And so, people at home say, well, why can't we focus that here? And figure out our schools or healthcare or whatever. On top of that, they're paying the price. I mean, there are few costs as visible and as in your face as gas, right? And Joe Biden was on the receiving end of this in his term. You drive by a gas station, 20 times on your way to work? So you see that, nearly $4 for gasoline, $5 for diesel every 5 minutes when you're driving. So there's this constant reminder that they are paying for the confusion that's going on in the Middle East. So it's not that anyone kind of follows the day-to-day of the negotiations. It's just they know that we're spending a lot of money and that people are coming back, unfortunately, wounded and killed from the conflict that goes on.
People seem to have internalized the betrayal, that Donald Trump isn't doing any of the things he said he was going to do. You've been out front. You're someone who Democrats look to in terms of effective, well, on two fronts. One, making the video, going toe-to-toe with Donald Trump, speaking directly to the men and women of the military, telling them it is their duty to disobey an illegal order, something that got you investigated by his Department of Justice, but also talking to the country. And in this moment, when Democrats could have the attention of 75% of Americans who in one way or another either distrust or are turned off by something Donald Trump is doing, what is the conversation with 75% of Americans right now?
I think the people feel like, look, I often feel like Trump has the wrong answer to the right question. And I think on cost of living and this threat to the middle class, he ran on that and people felt like, hey, man, even if I don't like him, I feel like that's my issue that's keeping me up at night. I don't know if I can provide for my family. I don't know if I can send my kid to summer camp. I don't know if my kids are going to have a better life than me. And I want someone who's going to focus on that. I think that's why he got a lot of swing votes, for instance, in the state of Michigan. But then what he's done in the year since he's taken office is the exact opposite. He's taken military action in 9 different places in 14 months, more than any president in American history. He's basically become a foreign policy president and kind of ignored the domestic emergencies that people feel in their normal life: housing, health care, child care. And I think people are like, how come I can't get that bold action on the things that he said he was going to do? And, I think that sentiment has really seeped into the meat of the public, at least in the Midwest, because that is still, the kitchen table issues are still the predominant issues that people are stressed about, and they just see him doing virtually nothing and, in fact, raising their costs.
Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene are vomiting out all the good things they said about Donald Trump over the last 10 years. How do you see the political climate shifting ahead of the midterms?
Well, look, I mean, it is very interesting, again, as an observer, to watch kind of the intra-MAGA fights and the battles. I give credit to the people who, maybe thought one thing and then say something differently now when faced with reality. I think that's what we want. And we have to give people an off-ramp. I'm not sure those two folks are quite where I am, but I think the thing that heading into the midterms it's often a referendum on the party in charge. And I think even my Republican colleagues are kind of preparing for a win, at least in the House and hopefully also in the Senate. They've just proposed a budget to fund ICE for the next 3.5 years so that they never have to come through a potentially Democratic House or Senate to pay for things again. And that is an indication that they think they're going to lose the midterm elections. We have to see that through, but I think that's where the mood of the country is. I will say, though, and I think this is important for everyone to hear, just because you win in a midterm doesn't mean you're going to win in a general election. And that's where ideas and thought leadership and communication is really important. So we're going to have, I think, a good midterm, but we shouldn't take that. A win in the midterms does not necessarily mean we win at the ballot box in 2028. And if we don't work for it and don't think about lessons learned from the last election, we're not going to win in 28. And that is, to me, the most important thing.
Well, and I mean, I think whatever happens, you know better than just about anybody that Donald Trump will be the president for the 4 years, barring some extraordinary act of his own party, I guess, could decide to grow a backbone and vote to impeach. You can't even imagine the scenario where he's not. So I want to ask you about the world in which we will all have to live. This is Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on Sunday.
The world, as I said earlier, is more dangerous and divided. The U.S. has fundamentally changed its approach to trade, raising its tariffs to levels last seen during the Great Depression. Many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our weaknesses, weaknesses that we must correct. There are some who say there's no need for a comprehensive plan. They believe we should wait it out in the hope that the United States will return to normal, that the good old days will come back. But hope isn't a plan, and nostalgia is not a strategy.
How much has the world changed in 15 months?
Well, just the fact that a Canadian Prime Minister can give that speech is, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I'd be watching that on TV, I would have said there's no frickin' way. I mean, I'm from Michigan. I mean, we are a border state. We have family ties and property ties and cultural ties, and these are our Canadian cousins, and so it's painful, particularly as a Michigander, to hear that kind of a thing. But this is, to me, a result of the strategy that President Trump uses, which is kick allies and friends in the teeth and cozy up to adversaries. That seems to be his consistent theme, and we see the price for that, right? We see what happens when he does that. You have our nearest, closest neighbor sitting there talking about divesting from the United States and trying to diversify their supply chains after we basically worked alongside them for years. And then you see, like, when we're going to war in the Persian Gulf, if you don't tell them on the front end that you're doing something, it's hard to expect them on the back end. And given the way that he's treated them, they're seeing it as a liability to come to our aid. And so kicking our allies in the teeth has very specific economic consequences, military consequences, and to me just represents a really a-strategic approach from this president. And, I hope that when we're done with this administration, we're never going to snap back to the world the way it was. And I understand and take the point. This is not about nostalgia and all that. We are going to have to, from the ashes, figure out a new way forward. And this is why, again, I'm interested in thought leadership. I'm interested in people who have ideas on a new way of doing things, because the old way didn't work. Trump's way doesn't work. So we're going to need something new.
You were an intelligence officer. We started the broadcast today with former director of the CIA, John Brennan, who was in the political crosshairs of the Trump administration. They've hauled out Joe diGenova now to try to investigate him when career prosecutors said there was no factual basis for doing so. What is your theory? What is your theory of the case in terms of what the desired impact is on the current intelligence community to so doggedly harass the former director of the CIA, who simply assessed what John Durham bore out, what the IG at DOJ bore out, that the original investigation into Russia's attack in 2016 was properly predicated?
You know, I don't think it's targeted just at the intelligence community. I think it's targeted at who Donald Trump believes are his perceived political enemies. And it's a tale as old as time. I mean, it goes on in autocratic countries that I've studied as a CIA officer my whole life, right? You use physical intimidation and legal intimidation to get your perceived enemies to shut up, and then to send a message to all your potential adversaries, you better not try me because I'm going to come for you. I'm either going to sick, a bunch of dangerous people on you by saying you should be hanged, in my case and Mark Kelly's case, or I'm going to bleed you dry by making you pay tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees by coming after you in a frivolous lawsuit. And we hope that you be quiet when that happens and that it sends a message to everyone else to be quiet. And I experienced this when they tried to criminally indict me for a 90-second video. This is the strategy. The pain is the point. And I think what they're doing to John Brennan and so many other people, John Bolton, on the Republican side, is just that. And I think we need to call that out, again, because if you do it today to a U.S. senator or to a former head of the CIA, imagine what they can do to a local clerk, to a mom who goes viral on TikTok, whatever. It just shows you the level of intimidation, and it's out of an authoritarian playbook.
Senator Elissa Slotkin, thank you for fielding a wide range of questions today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to